Good afternoon, and welcome to the North Carolina Museum of History's 25th Annual American Indian Heritage Celebration. Our presenter, Ms. Darlene Graham, will begin in just a moment, but we want to begin with a few notes. Remember to ask questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to them and share with our presenter. We have many additional resources about the American Indian Heritage Celebration in North Carolina on our website. Visit NCAIHC.com. We thank the following sponsors of the North Carolina Museum of History Foundation for helping to make this event possible. Please stand by for a few slides regarding our sponsors. Now let's get started. Miss Darlene Graham is a member of the Waccamaw Siouan Tribe. She's an educator and artist and knowledgeable in traditional foodways as well as other uses of plants. We welcome you today, Miss Graham. And what are you sharing with us today?
And I am Darlene Graham from the Waccamaw Siouan Tribe, and we're one of the 8 state recognized tribes of North Carolina. Our grounds are located in the southeastern part of North Carolina in Bladen and Columbus County. Our homelands are located in 3 communities: St. James, Buckhead, and Council. The Wacamaws, we live on the edge of the Green Swamp and about 37 miles from Wilmington, near Lake Waccamaw. And speaking of Lake Waccamaw, there are many stories that have been told about the legendary origin of Lake Waccamaw. Many have proven to be imaginary creations of the early white settlers. According to my people, thousands of years ago, a great star appeared in the night sky toward the southwest, gleaming with wisdom of many suns as it raced toward the earth. The star finally struck the earth, burning itself into a deep hole within the ground, bringing its wisdom from the Creator, creating a large opening in the ground. The waters of the surrounding swamp and rivers flowed into the opening and cooled it, creating what is known today as Lake Waccamaw. And we are the people of the fallen star. So I have a couple of slides with you that I want to show you guys today. Sue Jacobs is with me in the chat room. Hey Sue, hope you're there. Thanks. I want to thank the planning committee and all our technical support that's here with us today. Food-based dyes with textiles. I want to give you a little bit of background information. Our ancestors have always been resourceful. They learned to use all natural resources which Mother Earth has provided to us in many different ways. Plants, berries, fruits, vegetables are not only good for eating and medicines, but it was used as dyes as well. It gives color to many objects that were made, handcrafted, and it's a way that our people told our stories and left those stories for us to read by using symbols and pictures with natural dyes. Before the Europeans even arrived, our people were already using food-based dyes and the natural materials, such as to decorate hide or decorate handcrafted items. Trial and error was a means of extracting the color from plants. One of the ways that you can extract color from plants is by hammering, simply hammering onto the plant, onto the material that it's going to be dyed, such as a leaf. If you put a piece of paper or something over it and then just hammer it onto the fabric, leaving berries in a container, and that will extract the dyes from the berries. It's called a sun brew. Boiling plants, berries or vegetables, producing a dye bath. And that's the process that we will use today. When gathering plants, it's very important. Now remember this, it's always important to make sure that it's okay to gather those plants. Some places are protective areas. So therefore, you can't just go in and take berries or plants or seeds as you wish. Or if you're in someone's field, you have to get permission from the landowner. It's always important to do that. Here you see Miss Sue and Miss Jane. There's Mr. Greg up there. Mr. Greg is Pahuri. So we went to his travel grounds, and he gave us some plants there, like sage and other types of plants that he shared with us. We also got elderberry from alongside the road. Be prepared when gathering plants, seeds, whether it's from the woodlands or wherever in your garden. You must be prepared. You need to make sure that you take your containers. Make sure you have a box or a basket or something to put your produce in, to put your foods in. As you can see, our summer youth workers, they were prepared. They have on protective clothing. And they needed the boots because, as you can see, it was flooded. And they had on long sleeves. And Miss Sue, she actually has her hat on, but she just stuck flowers down in it. By the way, you can get beautiful dye from flowers as well. You may need gloves or a long sleeve shirt to protect your arms from briars and bushes and things of that sort. Make sure you have the proper tools. You may need clippers, you may need scissors, or even a shovel. But make sure before you go out to gather that you have proper tools in place. One of the most important things is to be a good steward. Be good stewards. These ladies here are Waccamaw Siouan, and they came into our healing green space, and they began to admire and learn about the elderberry bush and the different properties that it owns. So always show respect to the plants and all other living things as well. Even a worm has a purpose. Here we have our summer youth workers. They worked in our tribal garden. Now I must say that they finally realized that gardening was not for them, but they love to eat the food that comes from the garden. They had a difficult time at times, but they made it through. So I still have to give them a thumbs up for trying. Walk gently amongst the plants. It's important to walk gently when you're in your garden or when you're in the woods. You don't want to trample on them or bruise the plants or hurt the food in any shape, form, or fashion. So walk gently when you're amongst the plants. There are many ways to respect plants by being good stewards of Mother Earth. One of the ways that we talked about in respecting plants is to learn all that we can about the plant that we are working with or dealing with. So we worked with our students this summer, and we gave each one of them a plant. So Aaron there, he chose the mint, and he actually learned that there were over 600 types of mint. We have 3 types in our healing green space. So he did study on the mint. Rakaya, she's my granddaughter, she has made a homemade weed killer. And in that weed killer, we use vinegar, and dishwashing detergent. And it really does work. It really does work. So I prefer that over Roundup. So that's another way of protecting Mother Earth and being good stewards. You know, our people went green. We call it go green now. Our people have always been green. We've always done green and been protectors of Mother Earth. If we take care of the plants, they will take care of us. Now that is a true statement there. Without plants, what would we eat? So we need to take care of the plants so that they will take care of us. Somebody has to be a farmer. Somebody has to grow a garden. Somebody needs to understand plants. So why not you? So we have Anastasia there. She's learning about the elderberry. We have sage, and she's learning about sage. And we also have Miss Kylie. She's our princess, and she selected the lemon verbena. By the way, it smells awesome. Preparing the fabric. So we're getting ready to talk about our demonstration right now, and we're getting ready to talk about how to go about dyeing fabric. It's important to pre-wash your fabric. When you go in the store and you decide that, hey, I want to dye this bandana, or I want to dye this piece of material, so just go ahead and wash it, maybe with dishwashing detergent or some kind of gentle cleansing stuff, and put it to the side and let it dry, and wait until you get ready to start your fixative process. So now we're getting ready to go through the process. Those collards look good, don't they? I love collards. And by the way, you can get dye from collards as well. Prepare the fixative. So right now we're going to talk about that. We're going to go over here and prepare our fixative. So I already have my fixative prepared. And what you would do, you would place half a cup of salt. And like I said, for the sake of time, I already have it ready. And you put your salt in there, half a cup of salt, and 8 cups of water. So we've already got that prepared, but I'm going to turn it on, let it heat up again, and I'm going to place my piece of material in there. And this time, here it is. Okay, goes right in there. Let me put this back on. There we go. Now, when you do your fixative, there's a couple of things that you will need. Of course, you're going to need a hot plate or a stove. You'll need a pot. Now, depending on the size that you're going to need for your dye bath will depend on the size of your pot. So I didn't need a huge pot. So I just used this little saucepan here. It needs to come to a boil, and then it will simmer for 1 hour. The reason we need a fixative is so the color will set. It causes the color to set in the dye when we go through the dyeing process. So we're going to just let that simmer there for a little while, or come to a slight boil. And then I'm going to move over. As you can see, these are the materials that you will need. If you're dyeing with berries, then you need salt. If you're dyeing with greens, such as collard, then you would need vinegar. Of course, you always need paper towel. You need spoon, tongs, measuring cup, and I use distilled water. Pour in 8 cups of distilled water and a half a cup of salt, and so forth. Always use salt as a fixative for berries, and white vinegar for fruits and vegetables. Or did I read that wrong? Anyway, I use salt, yes, salt with berries. There we go. And so we're going to leave it right there for a while. And now I'm going to talk to you while this is going on. I'm going to talk to you about the display that is here on the table. How many of you are familiar with these? Collards. There's nothing like a good old pot of collards. I like collards. I like collards when the frost has hit them, so to speak. And they become really, really sweet. I like collards when my dad went out hunting and he would come back with a deer and we would have deer meat and collards. I like those collards then. I also like collards with a little bit of sweet potatoes on the side. I also like collards with a little bit of fat back too. So collards are an important part to our families during Thanksgiving and all of that. But you can also make a dye with collards. So when I cut my collards up, I try to cut them small because I like them small. And if you're making a dye, you need to cut your collards up so the pigment will come out easily when the collard grains are being boiled. So there you go. I'm ready to go home and cook a pot of collards. So right here we have sweet potatoes. This is sweet potato. Almost at pie again. This is sweet potato dye. Comes from this. Right here we have the beauty berry. There's a story. Can you see the dye that's in there? That makes a beautiful dye. It's called a sun brew. So I put these in this jar. I had my granddaughter, and her friend to go out and pick the berries because things comes in seasons. So you can't just pick berries or fruits or vegetables anytime. There's a time and a season. There's a season for all things. So the season for the berries, we had to pick them and put them in a jar so that we could preserve that dye. So this is called the sun brew. Right here, we have mullein. We have this mullein growing in our healing green space because it is a medicinal plant as well. And you can use it for swelling. Our people use it for many different purposes, bronchitis, breathing disorders. One of the things also that you can use with mullein is the flowers. Makes a beautiful, beautiful yellow flower. You can extract the oil from it and use it as for an earache. So this is the color that we got here. One of the things that our people use this for is a natural toilet paper. And I'm going to just stop right there and there. Okay? Now, we also have strawberry dye. Strawberry dye. I'm going to show you how it looks. We just put these pieces of fabric in there last night so it could set overnight. And so this is a beautiful color. Now it would dye, when it dries, it would be lighter. And I'll show you guys that later on, an example of that. Right here we have black walnuts. Our people use dyes to dye different baskets and chair bottoms and things of that with the black walnut. So this is the color that we got from here. the longer you leave it in the dye bath, the deeper the color will be. So one of the things when I was growing up, my granddad had this type of tree in his yard. And this is a hard shell or husk around it. Inside is the nut, and you'd have to take a hammer and beat it and hammer it out and get the meat out of it, the nut out of it. I always call them a walnut, but now I hear people calling them like walnut. Okay? Here, everybody loves carrots, right? Mm-hmm. Or you learn to love them if you go to school. Now, this is our carrot dye. Nothing like carrot with some ranch. But you can get a dye from carrot. And this is a beautiful color that we have here. Right here is mint. Now in our healing grain space, we have several types of mint, as I said earlier. And this is one of the mints that we have. I think this is peppermint. And but it makes this color here, a beautiful golden. And by the way, these are natural dyes, so you're going to get natural colors. This is one of my favorite dyes right here. It comes from the pokeberry. Now, for some reason this year, we have pokeberries in our healing grain space, and they grow out in the wild, in the woodlands. You'll see the pokeberry. For some reason, they did not do well this year. I don't know why. But in the past, I had pokeberries all over my yard, all over our healing grain space, but these did not do well. And so I went out and grabbed a few and put them in this bag, and I froze them because I knew by the time that we were doing this workshop, they would be dried up or gone or whatever. So I put these in the freezer to preserve these. Oh, when I was growing up, I would always paint. There were 7 of us, 6 girls and 1 boy. So we would paint our fingernails with pokeberries, and our mom would always say, "Do not put your fingers in your mouth. Do not put your fingers," because pokeberries can be poisonous, but you can also eat them. But you just have to know when. Again, there's a season for all things, so you have to know the season when these are edible, and you may need to boil them a couple of times to get the toxin out. Okay, right here we have the apple. This is the color that we've gotten from the apple peel. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about that. We had some leftover apples, and I decided that I wanted to make some apple dye. So I got the apple, and I peeled the apple, and I made the dye. Then I had the apple. I was like, man, I don't want to throw the apple away because we don't want to waste anything. So I had to cook the apples. So I cooked the apples, and I put sugar in there and cinnamon in there, and it was smelling so good, and they looked so good. My next thought, man, it sure would be good with a piece of fry bread. Well, it's fall. It's powwow season for sure. So I definitely had to fry up some fry bread. So I was home all by myself, and I made a piece of fry bread, and I put my apples on my fry bread, and I had a party right by myself. It was some good eating. Here we have pecan dye. Now we made this dye when the husks were green. This is the color that we've gotten. Now this is dry. So this is the color that we've gotten here is our pecan dye. Natural colors, natural colors. Right here we have cranberries. So not only can you dye fabric, but wood as well. Isn't that beautiful? So this here is, it dye, like I said, it dyes a little bit. When it dries, it's a little bit lighter. So do we have any questions?
Yes, Miss Graham, we do have a couple of questions. The first one deals with the mullein that you picked up and showed us earlier. When you said it's used for medicinal purposes, how is it used to help heal swelling and or bronchitis?
Okay, you can make a tea out of this. So you simply boil it. And some people probably put a little sugar in it. So use it in maybe a teaspoon a day. And so boiling and making a tea.
You also talked about the process of using various foods for dyes, such as the peel, the apple peel. Are there other foods that you use um, to make dyes that can be used for other purposes?
So run that question by me one more time.
So let me read this one again. What is the process of making dye out of foods? And do these foods or plants have require special treatment or preparation other than boiling? That's
Oh,
that question.
okay, okay. So what we do is no, you just peel your apple, and we do not throw anything away. So we just use that natural that peel. You may want to wash your apple if you bought it from the grocery store to get that residue off of it. So that waxy stuff that's on them that they use to keep them looking fresh. So we may want to wash that off, and if there's any dirt or anything on them, yeah, you may need to wash them to prepare them.
And for your the pecan dye,
Mhm.
do you use the shell or actual meat of the fruit of the nut?
So again, we just use this here part here, the husk,
Mhm.
and so look, you can use your husk and still eat your fruit, the meat. So it's a win-win situation.
And the last question for our first set of questions, how much control do you have in creating a color? Is there a technique to make colors lighter or darker or bolder other than soaking the fabric overnight?
That is a very good question. However, it's just experience, trial and error, and experiment. And you can experiment with many different things and just trial and error and go through it. And the more you learn about dyeing, the more control that you'll learn how to have, how much salt to put in, or I didn't do it just right this time, or I want a different color. So it's trial and error. Okay, thank you. So, so, um, so we're gonna keep going on. I hear it boiling over here. So it's getting ready. Again, this would need to set for at least an hour. If longer, that's fine. But for at least an hour. But for the sake of time, we're gonna speed up the process. So I'm gonna move this over here, and we're gonna start our dye bath. So you put 1 part berries and 2 parts water. So I have about a cup of cranberries, as you can see. Maybe it's a cup, but we're going to do that. Put about a cup of water, and we're going to let it come to a boil. And while it's doing that, we're going to just continue back to the display table. Now this color here, we just dyed it earlier, and it's still wet. So look at it. It's a pretty color, but this here is the color when it dries, it will come out to be blue. So what color, what food do you think we use? When it dies, it's going to be blue. Okay, that's right. That's right. Blueberries. And I want to share with you about my time with blueberries. Many years ago, when I was young, this was even before time changed, my uncle drove what we called the blueberry bus, where he would go around throughout the community, picking up people and other communities as well to take to the blueberry farm, which was located in Cattails. So my grandma and I would get on the blueberry bus, and it would still be dark. And I feel like I just want to lay my head over next to the window and get a little bit more sleep. But nevertheless, I would be so excited about getting to that blueberry field. And we would have to go throughout communities, like I said, and pick up people. Well, it took a long time to do that. But we would finally get to Highway 11. For those of you on the southeastern end, you know where I'm at. Highway 11. And we would go across Cape Fear River first, actually. And then we would go across Black River. I love going past the river. I would always look down there and see the most beautiful sight. I think it was so pretty and so relaxing. But I love going across those bridges and those rivers. But we'd finally get to the field. And all you could see, as far as the eye could see, were blueberries and more blueberries. So my grandma and I, we would get out along with other people, and we'd try to get a road. And by this time, the fields are still wet with dew. And so we'd get out and we'd get our buckets tied around our waist and begin picking blueberries. We'd pour them over into a crate or flat, which had 12 pint cups. We filled those flats up, and I was a little old thing at that time, so I had to, but I still have to take the blueberries up to get checked and to get the money for it. So I think we were getting like 75 cents a crate to pick blueberries at that time. So I had a sock, and I would put my money in that sock and maybe put it in my shoe or in my pocket or somewhere to keep it safe. But those are some fine memories that I spent with my grandma picking blueberries. Memories that will never change, memories, things that happened that we can never redo. So, young people, take time out with your elders. Take time out with your grandma. Go talk to them. And I hear something talking over here, so let me get back over here. So we're coming to a little boil. I may need to add some more berries here. So I'm going to add some more cranberries. Got these from the grocery store. I'll put a lot in there. Take time out with your elders. Talk to your grandparents. Find out the things that they did when they were a kid. I know that we get busy with sports and schools and just doing our own thing, but it's important to get those memories with your grandparents. Those are memories. But anyway, this is our blueberry dye. We're doing cranberries right now, so this is the cranberry dye. I love this color. I love this color. Here we have onion dye. Right here is onion dye. It's a regular onion. This type right here is our regular onion. You use the skin from the onion. Let me show you the color of this. So we have this beautiful orange color right here. Isn't that beautiful? All natural. All natural. This is our red onion. Makes a beautiful color. It's amazing how you can make these dyes and use the food and make your dye and still eat the food. No waste here. Here is turmeric. I love this color. I've heard that turmeric is good for joint pain. Isn't that beautiful? It just amazes me. God's creation just amazes me all the time. He has provided. Creator provides what we need. The things that we need are there. The medicines that we need are there, just waiting to be found. Okay, we have one last here. It's cattails. I love cattails. Cattails are all around my community. They're in the ditches. They're in little ponds. They're at my back door, thing like at times. But I love cattails. That's a beautiful color. I want to show you the difference quickly. We have this color here and this color. Both colors come from cattails, and you may think it's because of the water, but it's truly not. It's the time that it was harvested. So it's a good idea to harvest your fruits, your vegetables, or whatever you want to dye with. If you're going to harvest in the winter, go ahead and harvest those in the summer and freeze them or put them away and hold on to them so they'll be fresh and vibrant. So these are some things that our youth made during the summer with cattails. They made some baskets. This is the part of the cattail that is edible, and other parts are edible, the roots. So there's all kinds of foods that are out there in our backyard. So do we have time for any questions? Okay.
Yes, Miss Graham, we'll ask a couple of questions and make sure we leave you time to do our conclusion. But one question is, what is the best way to store various peels or skins until you have enough to make the dye? And how much product should you need, I'm assuming ratio, between peels and skins and water in order to make enough dye?
Okay, good question. So if you're going to use these skins here, like onion skins, so it actually depends on how much you want to dye. So you need, if you have a cup of skins, then you need 2 cups of water. And you actually can weigh your material that is going to be dyed. And I don't know exactly what that ratio is because I guesstimate a lot of times. But you can store them in a brown paper bag, a plastic bag if you're storing these here, or your apple peel. Put them in a freezer and save them until you get enough to dye if you're dyeing a big piece of fabric.
Another question, can you mix or have you mixed berries or flowers to make different colors? Or will it just end up being a dark and muddy
That is a good question as well. I have not actually mixed any colors yet, but I think it would probably be like the primary colors that you do. If you mix those colors, you'll get a color, but sometimes it can look kind of muddy and brownish if you're not careful. So I did not bring any of the yellows that I had, but I had some beautiful yellow flowers, and it came out beautiful, the colors with the flowers.
And one last question for you, Miss Brown. Do certain colors or patterns have a significant meaning in the Waccamaw Nation?
We for many years our culture has been put to the side and it has been buried, not lost but buried. And now we are reviving that through the presentations that's going on throughout North Carolina and through stopping and taking time to listen to our elders. So I am still in the learning process, and our people are still in the learning process. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I got interested into plants, not always been interested in plants, but when I became interested through helping Native North Carolinians, it began to rise up in me. And I began to get real interested in plants. And I'm like, well, why am I so interested in plants all of a sudden? You know, I don't do plants. And come to find out, my great grandfather was a medicine doctor. And they tell me that people from miles and miles around would come to him to find out about what the plants would do. And I find that it's rising up in me. And you know, so to speak, stir up the gift. And that's what's happening with our native people throughout North Carolina. The gift is being stirred up. And we're saying, okay, it's okay to be who we are. It's okay to know our culture. It's okay to revitalize the things that have been buried for so long. So as far as the different colors, I can't really answer that question.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Any closing remarks? You got about 5 more minutes. Any more things you'd like to show us?
Okay, we do have 5 more minutes, so maybe we have a little bit of time. I can string this here cranberry and show you the color that it's going to be. Now, normally it would work. Stay here and simmer for an hour, but for the sake of time, we're going to speed up the process. So it is coming to a boil, and now we would leave it at least an hour longer if necessary to get to a desired color. And it's hot, but we're going to speed it up a little bit. Strain it. And if they had sit here longer, it would be a deeper color. Turn this off. So see, right here is the color we have now. But had we let it stay longer, we would get a deeper color. And now, with the piece, we've got our fixative here. It's cooled down a little bit. It's still hot. This would normally stay longer. You could chore. This jar is really full, so I can't do it there. Let's see if I can do something different. And I will pour it back in here and show you. So we went through the straining process. So I'm going to just put it back in there. And now it's time for a change. This is our dye bath, and this is small. Normally I let mine sit overnight to get a deeper color. And remember, it's all natural. So there you go. Isn't that beautiful? And that's what we mean by being good stewards of Mother Earth, using natural products. This is how it will look when it's dry.
Miss Darlene Graham, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing these techniques and cultural wisdom. We appreciate you here at the North Carolina Museum of History. And thank you to all of you who joined us today for our 25th annual American Indian Heritage Celebration.
Thank you. It surely has been an honor and a pleasure